So I'm changing the fork seals and also the fluid, but I'm struggling to undo the main nut at the bottom there, so I'm just gently pinched with the vice so I can undo it. So all being well, tell you what, I'll use my ratchet. Should make it a bit easier. Hopefully this one does come undone. Oops. Yes. Right. Just put you back down on the floor. I don't want fluid going everywhere. See, I didn't cause any damage there. There's no other way really of holding it. Just checking for the copper washer, but it is there. That looks like fairly old fluid to me. Okay, that's most of that out. Just put a bit of rain on there. I've not stripped these forks before, so I'm just working it out as I go. But the top of the stanchion, you've literally just got to push this piece in, as you can see, and then take out the split washer at the same time. Right, so I was having difficulty getting that top plug out, so what I've done is just put the stanchion in the vice. It is in there just gently, and it's resting on the bottom there, so it's not going to do any damage. So I was checking the Payne's manual just to see if there was any sort of better way, and it turns out that with the stanchions in the crown on the bike, it's the best way to sort of get it out. So let's just, so I've done one fork already, so I'm just showing you how I got it out. I didn't do it this way. So it sort of just pops down, and then you can use another screwdriver then just to get that little clip out. There we go. And that comes out then, and then just gently, be careful because that might crack up. There we go. And it will shoot out if you're not careful. So this is one that I've done. So it's all that top dust cover there is the original one, just been cleaned up. There's no need to replace that. Of course the seals have been replaced, new fork oil. So I'll run through that process on the other one now so you can see the rebuild I was just familiarising myself with it before I'll try and show everyone. So let's get started with this one. So we're going to be reusing this. We'll just give it a clean up. That's the dust cover that came off, so we'll just clean underneath this side, get that corrosion off there, and we'll re-grease that before it goes back in, but that'll be absolutely fine. So we've got a small spring first. Okay, so there should be a little washer now. There we go. Just to separate the two, the small spring and the biggest spring in there. Empty this old oil out now. Colour of it is horrible. Stanchion, that fork that I've done, it feels loads better. Absolutely loads better. I'm just draining all the oil out. I'm going to let that drain for sort of half an hour, make sure it's all out, and then I'll give the rest of the parts a clean up and show you the rebuild process. So join me shortly. So I've let most of the oil drain out. Next up we need to remove, there's a little clip inside here before the seal comes out. I had to destroy the one on the other fork to get it out. It was just a nightmare. But I did get new clips anyway. Yeah? So I've got the edge of that clip out there. It's just, this one's come out quite nice. Yeah? Okay. But it's all corroded anyway, as you can see there. For the cost of them, it's worth just replacing. So now with that clip out, there's nothing stopping the stanchion coming out, but I've looked through the Heinz manual at the best way of doing it, and there is no best way really. It's just a case of just pulling up on the stanchion with enough force to basically drag the seal out and everything with it. What I'm going to do now is, like I said, just pushing down on that stanchion just to whack everything out. There we go. So that's how it's got to go back in, which is kind of difficult when you're supposed to press that bushing in with a stanchion around it. It's difficult to do, so you'll see in a second how I've done the other one. But I'm going to give all these bits a clean and get everything ready to reinstall, and I'll show you that next. There's not as much oil in that one as the other fork. Okay, so everything's clean and stripped down. Let's rebuild it. Going to put a bit of Loctite on that drain bolt at the bottom. the same problem with the other stanchion that I've done, is that's just turning and it's not tightening up against inside. So what I've done to get around that was put the main spring back in, and then with this small hammer or something similar, just put that inside there and then put that on the floor while pushing down on the fork stanchion. It's creating pressure on that point, and that's it, that's tightened it. So you know, that's done it anyway, and that's fine, but I'm just going to hit it with the impact gun a few times. Or if I didn't put that spring back in, I just couldn't tighten up that bolt. Okay, so now that's the main bolt there in place. Next up, we've got our bush that goes in, and then you've got your washer there. But I'm just going to first tap in that bush slightly. What I did on the other fork, I put that down, washer down, and then I tapped that washer, but it wasn't pushing that bush in place. So I first of all just gave it a few taps either side, just to start it off. And then put the washer down. I've lost the chisel. There it is. See, the Heinz manual recommends to use a big socket and press it down, but you know, I don't know a socket that's going to be going down there. I would imagine there's some special tool. Now I can feel that the bush is going down. I can take out that washer and I can just have a look and make sure that it's seated all the way down. I think it needs a little bit more. Okay. So now this washer, it's sort of rounded smooth on the one side and then sharp on the other, so that sharp edge you've got to face up. And now we can put our seal in. So I've got a new seal there, 35mm. Just put a bit of oil around the seal. Again, the Heinz manual recommends using a socket, but I use the chisel there, flat-ended chisel, just so it doesn't damage the seal, and just gently, in so many places, just offer it down. that seal down enough so you can see that ridge. So we're getting there a bit more. So I've got our new seal clip there. You just need a flathead screwdriver just to put this in. Just clip it in the one side first. You could almost do it with your hand. And just go around and check that that's all in place, which it is. Perfect. So let's just see if you can see there the clips all in all the way around. So just stop that seal coming back up. Right, so that's that bit done. Next up, we need to fill it full of oil. Put our main spring in. Oh shit, I've just realised something. I forgot to put that on. That means I've got to take it all off. Okay, so I've put that spring in. It wasn't as bad as I thought. I just had to undo the main bolt at the bottom, and then I could get that part up to put the spring on. Right, so the main spring's in. Washer and our smaller spring. So this is why I've got it in the vise now, because we've got to push down on this piston. We'll put the clip in. Just going to use a bit of oil. Okay, rest that on top. I'm just going to use this posi to push down in the centre. There we go. And then that clip can go in. And sorted. Just give it a push down, just make sure that that clip's in place all the way around. All the way around. That's perfect. Job done. Right, so we've got our fork rebuilt. That feels grindy. Sounds grindy, should I say? Compared to this one that I've done. Maybe it just needs a right. So the last part, our dust cover. I'm just going to put a little bit of grease around this all the way around. And as the Heinz manual says, you just literally push this on by hand. Down that goes. and pushes on in place, and that's it. I suppose a little tap on it. Beautiful. Another job done. There is some very tiny pitting, as you can see in these, right at the top in the usual spot. But I ain't gonna let it bother me. Just what's the point in re-chroming them, I suppose? Just leave them as is. Can always keep an eye out for some new ones, but good luck trying to find them. That definitely feels grindy though, that does. I can see some marks coming actually already. We'll have a look. Right, let's move on to the next bit. We just need to clean up the crown, and we can get our headset put in and get the forks back on. So I'll just give those a clean up and then we'll move on to fitting the headset. I just wasn't happy with the difference in the two forks. One felt really grindy and the other one was really smooth, and I was just thinking maybe when I tapped that bush in I damaged it a little bit and it was scoring on this stanchion, so I was worried that, you know, over time that's just gonna wreck it. So anyway, I took it apart, I went to empty the oil, and I just realised that there wasn't any oil, so I hadn't put any oil in. That's the reason why it was the way it was. So I'm just going to put that in now. I've marked it on the bottle so I know how much to put in. It's 320 millilitres, 10.7 fluid ounces. I'm using 10 weight. It does say in the book to use 1030 engine oil. I've checked on a few forums and they recommend to use 10 weight, so that's what I'm going to go with. That's it, a bit more. Perfect. Right, let's have a feel of that. There we go. That is loads better. Right, we can now move on to the headset. I've got our new headset here. So I just need to press in this cup. I haven't got anything to press it in with, so just a little tapping should be fine. Just needs to go all the way. I'm just going to use a piece of wood just in case. I've just made sure it's all level. Now I can just give it a tap with this. Needs a bit more. Just make sure it's seated all the way. Perfect. Bottom one's got to go up quite a lot. I'm just going to use this chisel just to tap it evenly into place. You can see now what's happening. It's gone up probably a little too far here, and it's not enough this side. It's getting there. That's got it. Just make sure there's no gap all the way around. Perfect. So now with the cups in place, got our bearings in the top and our bearing in the bottom there, and that'll be a lot better than the original loose ball bearing set that's in there. So we've got the forks all sorted now, and also I have applied some fresh paint to the fork crown there. So while that's drying, I thought I would give a start. Well, get a start on the engine. So I'm just going to fit our reeds and our reed block back in. Now, looking at our reeds, this is the one that I've built up. So I believe those will be the original reeds, metal. I've done some measurements on the, I can't remember the name of these now, the reed blockers, and just to make sure they're roughly 10mm apart, so that the reeds are not going too far back. and snapping, and obviously they're going to go straight into the engine. I was also checking, as per the Haynes manual advice, to check any cracks or anything like that. This is the one off our spare engine, the one that was on. Let's just show you. So as you can see, there's some nasty cracks down there. So that one is at it. So that's them. So I had two engines, as you know, and these were on one of these reeds was on the one engine, but when there was quite a big gap. A little gap is okay, but there was, for my liking, there was quite a big gap. You could more than see a daylight through it, but as you can see with these, there's no gapping at all. You can't see any light coming through. They sit nice and flush, which is what you want, and the gap between there and there is around 10 mil. So that should be absolutely fine. I do plan on changing the reeds. I don't want to keep them in there too long, just for fear if, you know, that metal, if they do snap and go straight down the engine, that's the end of the game basically. So I'll set you up and I'll just install the reeds. We've got a fresh gasket as well, so join me shortly. So I have some Loctite gasket maker, which I'm just going to put around that area there where it does go. Okay, so I've put some gasket maker on there. Okay, let's line this up. Whack our 4 bolts in. There we go. All sorted. I've noticed there is a very tiny split there, as you can see, but it's right on the fixing point of the carb, so that's not going to cause us any issue. At least there's no cracks or anything around the common place. Right, so that's that done. While I'm in this area, I might as well fit the carb as well. I did sort the carb out before YouTube, so it's all been freshened up, some new screws cleaned out, and a few little bits and bobs sorted out on it, but just a case of putting it in now. Okay, our paint's nice and dry now, so I'm just going to first of all fit that lower bearing. I'm just going to put a bit of grease around the bottom there. It should help me get the bearing onto the steerer. Pop that on. Wipe my finger. I'm just going to give it a little tap. Obviously not on the bearing. I'm going to put some grease in the cup in there, in the frame, but I'm just going to put some on the bearing itself as well, because why not? These tools that came with some, well, it was the shocks off the CM actually, and they don't work. Just thought I'd let you know that they don't work. That feels pretty good. So let's just put the top on. I'll leave that slightly loose for now, but with that tightened up, that'll stop the movement then of that locking nut. But yeah, that's looking pretty good. So next up, I can get our fork legs in. Just going to give the bolts a clean up and get the stanchions in, get the forks in, and that'll be that part done. I'll just clean the bolts up and I'll be back shortly. Okay, so as you would have seen from that bit of time lapse there, we've got the forks in, cleaned all the bolts up. They're just in there temporary. Obviously when the front wheel's in and the brakes on and everything, we can align everything before we finally tighten everything up. I've got the caps for them as well. Just simply sit in there. I did forget to put the seal for the bottom part of the headset. There's the old one, but I have took it all back off and put that seal in. So that's the progress so far. That's going to be it for this one, guys and girls. Until next time, goodbye.